Hello. There I am. I know it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky. Okay. My apologies. My apologies. My apologies. My apologies. Each time we think we got it, we don't. Hello. My name is Miriam. I'm an evolutionary astrologer. I studied very, very hard to do this. And I guess the first thing I want to start about talking about y'all with is well, those of us who are awake, and by awake, I mean that we had a moment, right? And this moment changed our lives forever. A lot of us know the date. It's one of the ways I can tell. And some people are like, no, it happened gradually. And that's cool and everything. For a lot of people I know, there's a date. Mine was like February 5th, 2013. And I call it my spiritual recovery because God literally put me in a space for about 14 months where my entire focus was completely dedicated to a spiritual recovery. And I don't know why I'm being kind of led into explaining that human beings, yeah, we have a body, we have a mind, we have a heart. However, there's also a soul that's kind of stuck in there, right? And it doesn't matter where this human being goes, that soul needs to be fed. And depending on what that soul is eating, and you can always tell by the person's appetite what they're feeding into their soul because it's going to transform and come out. It's going to come out in their behaviors. It's going to come out in their money. It's going to come out in their sexual identity. It's going to come out in some certain way. Some folks would say there's a link here to psychology, and that's great and everything, except psychological layers are layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. It can take too many years. I'm just going to say it's too many years. For me, it's too many years. I don't have that kind of time. You know, I keep waking up. That's how I know I'm here. I keep waking up, and the day greets me. And whether I like it or not, I have to progress through time, through the day. It's not like I can just lay down in a corner and curl up in a ball and sob and grieve over my losses. I keep waking up. Every human being keeps doing this thing. We keep waking up. So, over the course of my spiritual recovery, after the foundations of what I had been taught, which was originally in Christianity, my mother came from a Roman Catholic background, turned Pentecostal, turned non denominational. Okay. My father, he was 35 when he found Jesus Christ. And at that moment, he changed and altered his whole life and became Southern Baptist mainly. I still have family members who are very much so attached in the Southern Baptist culture. Great, good for them. I'm the black sheep. I'm the one everybody blames stuff on. You know what I mean? I'm the we don't have a logical reason for why she does what she does. She's crazy. She's insane. Let's tag and label her with all these medical, anomalies, which I have not been fully diagnosed or tested with. I'm that person. And for a lot of people that are with me and with my channel and with Woke.Ones.Revolution and with Heather, we come from that black sheep sort of background. Okay, it doesn't mean that our souls are not hungry. It doesn't mean that we do not have value as a human being enough to be tended. I'm going to take my glasses off because it's triggering. I have trigeminal neuralgia in my face. Um, the black sheep culture, those of us who are exiled from our families, we're exiled from our hometowns. Sometimes it's occurred where family businesses, you're not allowed in here anymore. Um, everybody's got to have a bad guy, right? It's curious that when I sit with folks like us, we're very aware. We're very aware. And once we get through to the awakening point and we see that we have been the one choosing, we're very choosy, we're very picky. For me personally, it was my picker. I tended to pick people who were in a depraved state of some sort. And my automatic go to was, oh my goodness, let me jump in here and help. I see that you have no food. Let me take food out of my fridge and put it in yours. I see that your truck is just nasty. Let me clean it for you and wash it and fill it up with gasoline. Okay. I'm a worker. I do. That's what I do. I have always had a capability of doing. I'm a doer. The only issue is that I also watch and I see. And when I see something, I say something. And as a whistleblower, those of you that found my channel, uh, people don't like that. Does it create conflict? Yeah. But one of the brave points about the people that I spend time with is we want to have the conflict. We want to call out the poison and the pus and draw those things up to the surface so that we can get rid of it. Let's move along. However, I'm not just going to put a Band-Aid on a gaping chest wound and act like it didn't happen. To me, that's a lie. It's a lie. You're just going to go about your life like everything's cool. That's, it's hypocrisy. I don't live like that. Heather doesn't live like that. The dog doesn't live like that, period. Animals won't even do that. So why do humans do it? The second thing is we have been living in a culture for quite some time where you guys have heard it a million times, right? I hate people. Can't stand people. I just want to go be alone. Let me isolate. That's not a normal state for a human being. I don't know if you guys know that. Humans are herds. We're herd driven. There's safety in numbers, okay? And to isolate and separate everybody out, it sort of points to a fact that there's a sickness. There's a sickness in the tribe. It's internal. I can go to a therapist, right? But do you know how many people actually do the work in therapy? Very few. Very few. They either don't have time for it, they won't make time for it. One of the greatest therapists I ever had, he said, Miriam, you have to look at the pain directly. You have to look at the pain to get through the pain. There's no going around it, going under. No, none of that. You have to look right at it and you have to let your system feel it. I mean, just feel it. And then you have to grieve it. Whatever was lost, your childhood. Oh my goodness, I'm going to start crying already. The childhood you deserved, the kind of parent you needed and didn't get. The job that you worked so hard to get and they bypassed you. I had a sponsor once who has now transitioned. She used to tell me every loss is a loss, Miriam, however small, however big. And if you don't process grief, it stores up in your body. Literally, I have science to back that up. Stores up in your body, and whatever is compressed will come out distorted like Play-Doh. My mother passed away in 2002, and I held that grief in, and it wrecked me. It wrecked me. Part of grief carries anger. And I spent 12 years being angry at my mother because I couldn't process it, you know? When I finally came up over that hill, and it started with, I know it's gonna sound really crazy, but I'm not the only one that did it, you know? I'm not the only one that did it. I'm not. Here, I'm gonna pause so that I can readjust myself. Oh, thank you. So, my mother's best friend built like a little altar to my mom, and she put it in her eyes view to the right of her so that every morning when she wakes up, she can see my mother there. And she put pictures of my mother, candles, and so on and so forth. And I thought to myself, I'm going to do the same because I'm tired of being angry. I don't know if you guys have ever carried anger for a really long time. I'm tired of feeling angry. I just, so I'm going to do something different, right? Instead of going left, I'm going to go right. So I did. I put white candles out. I took all the pictures that I had and I laid them all out. And I wrote little notes to her. I love you. I forgive you. You know, you still matter. I still see you. I still see you. And over time, it took about 3 months, right? I finally figured out what it was. It was that I loved her so hard. How dare she leave me? How dare she leave me? I love my mother so much. How dare she put herself in these situations and make such terrible choices? And the anger pointed me towards the actual truth, which was love, you know? Anyway, I digress. It was a method. It worked. Those of us who are awake, we are brave. We are brave enough to stare at the pain. We're brave enough to look at it. We're brave enough to take a left at the crossroads and try something different. It's what makes us different. Okay? A lot of animals, they won't go directly at the hunter. No, but we will. Why? Because we're nuts. Okay? We're all nuts. We're nuts. There's something inside of our souls where we're all pulled and we feel this calling, and we say it in our world to raise our vibration. But you can't raise when you have so many heavy things on top of you. And I talk about it with my friends sometimes where, you know, back to the Christian thing in the Bible where they talk about the rapture. And I'm calling up my friends like, holy crap, you mean to tell me that the lighter we get by letting go of harm, pain, hurt, frustration, you know, trauma, PTSD, MS PTSD, CPT, whatever, all this stuff. The more we stare at it and we process and we process and we drive at it and we make sure that it's a discipline to look at the pain over and over, we get better and better at processing it, right? I get faster and faster. Right now, I got a therapist over at the VA, and his brain is like, and I'm looking at him like, no, 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 sit back down. I know that blew your brain open because I'm actually doing the work. But I'm telling you, and he looks at me like, who are you? And I'm like, I'm awake. That's what I am. I'm going to make my soul as light as a feather. Where, as I rise, my heart chakra opens and out it goes. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Those of us that lay down at night, we put our head on the pillow and we are mentally and emotionally at peace. When we're not at peace, that's how our community knows. I got to go. Wish me luck, bro. Going into the shadow, going into the shadow. I got to go look at the pain. And guess what happens? We check on each other. We check on each other. I look at Heather and I go, hey, Allie's having a hard time today. And you know what Heather does? Heather jumps in there and says, let's get up under her and support. So as she processes the shadow, she feels the love. Make me want to cry again. Y'all stop it. We've been doing this for so many years, and more people are waking up. More people are waking up. More people are waking up. And it just shines. It shines this huge light of love. And it doesn't matter where these people come from. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It's the fact that they're waking up and we can see each other and we love each other. So, having said all that for I don't know how long, I want to move into something cool because that's my job. And I can either hold on to this information or I can actually answer the call of my spiritual gift, which is to share the word. And when I get a word, let's share it. So this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you guys a crazy way that I've been clicking. You know how my brain works. It's like gears and they start moving slowly. Tick, tick, tick. My curiosity turns on. I go, what's that all about? And I start leaning into it. Next thing you know, I'm chugging along. And now I'm at a place where I want to share this family karma thing because, as you guys know, okay, what was her name? It was Dr. Sandy or Sandra. Dang it. Hold on. Let me go find it. I'm going to pause again. This meeting is being recorded. Let's get back to what I wanted to show you. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see what I see. This book right here, Hurt People, Hurt People. I know you guys have heard that being said, hurt people, hurt people. And I'm glad that it's being said. The words that stick with you and that kind of stay with you. Somebody handed me this book, Hurt People, Hurt People. I want to say it was in maybe 2011, 2012. It's by Dr. Sandra D. Wilson. And I read this book in 2011 and I went, what's that, Willis? Because this book right here helped me to see how our family of origin is repeating imprints that they were given. So my mother and my father were just repeating what they were taught. And whether we like it or not, the original imprint that was given to us from our family origin, subconsciously, we're turning it. We're turning it over and over, and we don't know it until the day that we wake up and we're like, oh my God, I can't stand this. I can't stand this, right? Can't stand it. I'm becoming my mother. I can't stand this. I just did something my father would have done. Yeah, Willis, you did. Hurt People by Dr. Sandra D. Wilson. You can find the book anywhere. They're selling it. I don't want to call it cheap. It's not a cheap book. Okay. They may be selling it cheap, but it'll change your world because what you see, even my mother said it. My mother was from Argentina, Formosa, Argentina, on the border of Uruguay, down in South America, okay? And the way that my mother raised me and my brothers, I remember I was about 16, 17 years old when a cousin came to visit. She was younger. She was treating her son the same way my mother would have treated us. And my mother jumped in the middle and she went, no, 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 you cannot do that in this country. They will take the baby from you. And I'm watching this, witnessing. And my cousin, she stands up very angry and gets in my mother's face and just, you are leaving what you have been taught. This is the way. And I was like, oh, I remember I was like 17. And I thought to myself, nuh-uh. So you mean to tell me that my mother felt a certain loyalty to a cultural idea that raising children through abuse was the way? Question mark. And the fact that I was 17 and my mother had caught it, she caught it like a firefly. Took her many years. I was already 17. It was too late. But at least she caught it. And now she recognized it. And now she went, whoa, it's against the law in this country to do this to children. It was a moment for me because I kind of sat back like, oh, so it wasn't my mother's total fault, right? But on one end it was, but she wasn't doing anything but what she knew. And a loyalty came with it. So my brothers took it and they ran with it. They raised their children the same way mom raised us. And I watched and I said, no, I'm going to be the black sheep here and I'm going to call it out because that's what we do. I read the book, Hurt People, Hurt People. That's all I needed to know. Science is backing me up again and going, yeah, families, their origin passes it down. So when you and I sit down and we start looking at our own individual shadow work, there are many of you, just like me, where you get to a point where all of a sudden you sit back and you begin to realize, wait a minute, Willis, I've kind of cleared a lot of my stuff. And now I'm getting these impressions in my mind of like my grandfather, whom I have never met. I didn't have grandparents. I didn't have cousins. I didn't have aunts. I didn't have uncles. I didn't have no extended family when I grew up. None. So why am I getting dreams of grandparents I've never met in the real world? Why am I getting impressions in my heart for their storylines? How is this coming to me now? And in our community, you and I both know that some of us have been marked to work the extended ancestral line. Hi, friend. Now, not to say that we're the only ones doing it. I have a cousin on my father's side. He's the oldest. His name's Steve. He's a Christian through and through. And several years back, he invited me to his house. And I went. And I hung out with this dude for like 3 days. We went fishing and all sorts of stuff. Good guy. Next thing you know, I find out that Steve, he's processing family karma as well. Christian, cool. I don't give a diddly dang. Just as long as we're working it and we're filtering what happened there, because we need to embrace the storylines. And then we need to filter it. We need to clear it with forgiveness, love, and bring the line to peace. That is our job. I don't know how we got picked, but here we are, friends. I'm doing it my way. He's doing it his way. And we share information back and forth with each other. He goes to the location geographically. He stands on the ground and he looks at the gravestone. He'll take a picture of it thinking of me. I didn't ask. He'll take a picture of the gravestone and say, hey, cuz, look what I just found. And I'll be looking at my grandparents' gravestones and I'll be like, hey, check. Because I'm over here internally processing their stories, praying about it, crying about it, walking around the house about it. Well, don't you know, because I'm an evolutionary astrologer, it's not like I ain't got tools. I have tools. He's a Christian. He's praying. He's meditating. You know, I don't know what else he's doing. He's retired, so he's driving, having a good time. And I'm in here journaling. And I'm using my toolbox. I learned evolutionary astrology as a way to find out why a God who says he loves me Why would he allow the things to happen to his daughter? What kind of God is that? You know? I know you know. I tell people, you ain't got no relationship with spirit, not until you get mad. Because as soon as you get mad, that tells me how much you care. Period. And that tells me that there's a link and a bond of a relationship there. Period. And so, yeah, I spent 3 years getting mad at God. How dare you call yourself my father? How dare you? No father would allow this to happen to his daughter. Period. And I had it out with God, man. 3 years of that nonsense. It stopped. And then I got gently led the way forward. And evolutionary astrology, once I started learning it, it showed me the why this had to happen. Why I had to carry pain. Why my family members have to go through this pain. Why evolutionary astrology showed me the blueprint, the map. And like the first time in 10 years, I finally relaxed. And I was at peace with what spirit had to do down our family line. So today, I want to show you a little trick that I've been looking at. And just sit with me while I figure this out, because this is awesome. Oh, period. And if you are part of us that have been marked to work the family line of karma, where we have to, I don't know, spend however many months sitting in the presence of our elders' stories that just come to us. And all of a sudden, I'm thinking about my great grandmother who must have been smoking hot. She must have been smoking hot. She wasn't married. A baron came from Europe on a ship. I guess it must have been around the 1900s, the turn of the century. He found her in Argentina. She must have been smoking hot because they were together for like a year and she got pregnant. So what did he do? He loaded her on a boat, took her back to Europe with him, moved her in with his wife and 2 children in a castle. I kid you not. I've been looking for that dude for a long time. And recently I've been processing her story in my mind, choosing a man outside of the Roman Catholic Church, which meant in her mind she would go to purgatory or hell, or carrying that on your soul every day. The way she must have been ostracized from society because she was the mistress in a foreign country with a language she didn't know. Her skin color was different. Her eye color was different. Her face was shaped different. I'm processing the rejection she must have felt, the humiliation she must have felt. Even if she did just want to go to mass, she couldn't partake in communion because she had been pregnant outside of wedlock and she was still under the care of this man in his castle. And that's the kind of stuff we talk about with each other when we're processing the family karma stuff. And so I have to sit with her rejection and her humiliation. And from here, wherever she is on the other side of the veil, I have to love her. I have to hold her in my heart space and just love her. And just love her. Say, it's okay. Ma'am, I don't even know your name. I don't even know where you're buried, but I can feel your story. I can see your hair being done up in the 1890s style. I can see you walking down the street and having tea with those people who were okay with sitting with an exile, with a black sheep. How her own family of origin must have disowned her. Maybe all the letters stopped. To feel her aloneness. I wish I could pull up her chart. I'm gonna show you what I found this week because this was amazing. I am going to use a website. It's www.familysearch.org. I'm telling you what, man, I was in a store in Walgreens like a few months ago, and I was like, "Oh," because I'm out there, very social, and you kind of have to be when you're in exile. You tend to make friends wherever you go, friends that become more than friends. You know what I mean? They become family. So I'm in Walgreens. I'm talking to the lady behind me. Oh, yeah, I'm doing this familysearch.org thing. And the lady behind the counter, she was like, "That's my church. Oh my God, that's my church. My church is the one that funds that. We're the ones that work that site." And I'm like, "Oh, it's kind of how you know you're on the right track, right?" I'm going to shut up. I'm going to shut up. Familysearch.org. It's free. It's not like ancestry.com or the other one. It's nothing like that. This one has a tremendous amount of resources, but also a tremendous amount of documentation, probably even more so than any other family lineage ancestral line website that I've ever been on. This thing has led me down on more rabbit trails than I know what to do with. It's so good that currently in my room, I am putting up a whole board so that I can do that whole detective thing, where you're like, "Hey, this person, and I'm going to take a string and tie it to this thing over here and like tie it to that thing over there and be like, okay, they took a ship from here to there. They got off the ship and they went to here." I swear to God, it's just how the family karmic clearing sort of goes. You guys know what I'm talking about. So let's use some resources and I'll walk you through it. And if you would like to comment, I would love to hear your family clearing and how it's been going, because all of us need love and support. If you would like to have a reading with me, of course, click the links down below. However, this is going to be a good one. Share it, like it, do the thing, because so many of us need this type of instruction. Hi. Okay. So let me reset. I had a little bit of an issue with the technology, but we're good now. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen and I'll show you what happened. Here we go. So familysearch.org is what I am using, and this is my tree. In the upper right-hand corner over here is where you can create an account for free and then log in and start building your tree. It will notify me in my email if there's like a link to a person that I need to look at. "Hey, Miriam, we found a possible link to your tree. A record was submitted. Do you want to take a look at it?" And probably 3 or 4 times a month, I'll check it out, do a little research. But this is my tree. And in the left side, you see me and my husband right here. And that's his line. And they're not really attached. My line is here with my father and my mother. And then we go to his parents because my mother's line is the one that went to Europe with the Baron, and I'm still trying to look for that guy. So this particular one, John Orrin Kramer, he was the public defender for the city of Columbus in Ohio. And he was interesting. He would line the prisoners up. In the morning, they would all line up because in the morning at a certain time, he always walked through. And as he walked through, he would choose which person he was going to defend. And everybody wanted him as a defender. It was kind of interesting when the judge found out and the city found out what he was doing. It actually turned into like job creation based off of your skill, because they were like, look, we like what you're doing. You're pre-scanning folks to be able to defend. So we're going to create a position for you as sort of like an inspector. It was interesting because I became an inspector myself of engines, but I was still an inspector. I'm winking at you. He had a Virgo moon. I looked him up, and my grandmother had an Aries moon. And I was like, oh, that must have been interesting. So in this particular one, I want to show you that I found this week, like 2 or 3 days ago. I'm going down the high tower line of my grandmother, and down her line, I have found at least 3 different places where my lineage, my ancestors, have colonized America. Like from the get-go, my family has been a part of every war. I have had the American Revolution. I've had the War of 1812. I've had the Civil War with both sides, Confederate and the Northerners, which I'll remember in a second. I can't believe I can't remember that right now. So going down my grandmother's line this week, and I don't know how it came, but it just kind of dinged. You know how it happens. So we're going to start with Warren Rector, and I guess that's my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, and there's Emmeline Rector. And then we move to Warren Rector. So we're moving up this Rector line. And just because I am familiar with American language, I know that the last name Rector is associated spiritually with folks who are pastors, preachers, priests. You know, they're part of the clergy. Let's put it that way. Here we have another rector. And as you guys know, historically, they would name people their last surname attached to them for what they did for work. And all of a sudden, we have this Jacob Rector and his parents, Hans Jacob Richter, in German. Hans Jacob Richter and Anna Elizabeth Fischbach, she was like 15 when they got married, apparently. Her parents died, and her aunt took her and her sister in. And when she married Hans, they got on a boat and ran off to America. And as you can see with Hans Jacob Richter, he was a Libra, born October 10th, 1674. This guy right there, right? And he was born in Trupach, Nassau, Siegen, Germany. But look at his death. Germantown, Fauquier, Virginia, British colonial American. Well, don't you know, I went further down the line because I was like, okay, it looks to me like Hans, Mr. Hans Jacob Richter, came to America, and I was right. Notice Christoffel Richter, Johannes Tillmanus Richter, Hans Jacob Richter, right? Hans Richter there, Fritz Richter there, Hans Richter again, Mathis Richter, and then all of a sudden I come to the end of the line. And I'm like, okay, so my folks go all the way back to this Mathis Richter guy, which doesn't have a lot, you know, he doesn't have a lot going on, because 1445 is that's kind of old, you know, it's kind of old. It is 2 years before the original tarot cards were created. I don't know if you guys know that. So I found that kind of interesting. Oberfranken, Bayern, Deutschland. Deutschland. So coming from the area of like the Netherlands, Denmark. Interesting. So because we had so many Richters, what I did was I went in here and did a search for what does the last name Richter mean? Like truly, what does it mean? So let me go in here, the Richter history, family crest, and coat of arms. And right here it says, a multitude of prestigious family names, such as the surname Richter, were formed in the lands which became the modern German state of Prussia, which is known for its beauty, industry, and military power. However, in the medieval era, which is the time period, Prussia was fragmented and inhabited by numerous barbarian tribes who fought amongst themselves for control of the land. The borders of the barbarian kingdoms, which were established after the fall of the Roman Empire, changed repeatedly. The region that came to be known as Prussia was roughly divided between the territories of blah, 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 right? The Richter family emerged in Brandenburg, Prussia, and by the 19th century, Brandenburg, Prussia had incorporated East Prussia, West Prussia, and many other German territories. Moreover, in the late 19th century, it led the German states into the German unification. Here it is. The surname Richter was first found in Brandenburg, where this family became a prominent contributor to the development of the distinct district from ancient times. Always prominent in social affairs, the name became an integral part of that turbulent region as it emerged to form alliances with other families within the feudal system. Okay, now we're getting somewhere because it's showing me the years. I can see the years. And in my line, I can see there's a lot of Richters going on. So, in the medieval era, many different cultural groups lived in the German states. There are thus many regional variations of German surnames from that era. Westphalians spoke Low German, which is similar to modern Dutch. Many German names carry suffixes that identify where they came from. Others have phrases attached that identify something about the original bearer. Other variations in German names resulted from the fact that medieval scribes worked without the aid of any spelling rules. The spelling variations of the name Richter include Richter, Richter, blah, 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 blah. So here we have Christoph or Christian Friedrich Richter, a German hymn writer and entomologist. Wow, one of the most popular German writers. I bet I'm related to that guy. So, where was it? I haven't done like total research on this, but it's very cool to find the crest and the coat of arms. If I looked at, where was it? Let me just do it again and see if it works. There it is. I'm going to put it right there. The last name Richter has its origins in Germany, derived from the Middle High German word Richtere, meaning judge or ruler. It was originally used as an occupational surname for individuals who held the position of a judge or legal authority during medieval times. The name has a long history associated with the legal profession and has been found in various regions of Germany, particularly the Brandenburg and Prussia. Variations of the name include blah, 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 blah. Now, how does this all fit into astrology? You ask. Oh, well, my dears, once you do your research like this, we can plug whatever you want on this tree into a chart. But before I get started on that, plugging in things into charts, let me stop the share real quick. We have to have a little discussion, just a small one. When studying astrology, there's a lot of people that look at the personal planets really, really close, and they get in real close. They bypass completely the generational planets because they're generational. So I'm talking about Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And they're like, well, their influence covers everyone. So let's just call them revolutionary. Let's call them transformative. Let's call them delusional, fantastical, addictive, whatever you want. And that's it. I'm not like that. No, when I learned astrology, I started with the generational planets. And there's a reason for that because look what I found this week. That's another one of those proverbs I collect. I've been doing it since I was like 10. Being recorded. Okay. In my spiral notebooks. Personal evolution not only contributes to, it depends on social evolution. And guess where I got that from? Oh, from the next website I'm going to take you to, which is this place. It's not this place. So I went down the line. Mathis Richter, Hans Richter, Fritz Richter, Hans, all the way. Here we go with the Richters, all the way down until I hit one where I was like, wait a second. Which one came to America? And it was the Hans Jacob Richter, this guy right here. So I discovered that Hans Jacob Richter was one of the founding families of German settlers that came to colonize in 1714 and 1717. This, what was it? It's an establishment of a German settlement, but little of the German settlers who were brought to this area with the 1714 colony and the 1717 colony and later groups. So this website is Historic Germana, and this is what it looked like there. They colonized in Virginia. And as you can see, they had their cattle over on one side. Security, you know, this big wall. The houses that went right down the center. Gardens in the back. And the smaller husbandry animals like pigs and chicken right out front, outside your front door. I assume this piece right here in the middle was high, you know, like it had steps so that you could go high and look out around the area. I see little chickens everywhere. So I went down the list of the settlers, and sure enough, I find Hans Jacob and wife Anna Margarete Otterbach. And there he is, one of my kin, as one of the original 1717 colony. I think he was part of the 1714 colony. He went first right there from Seigerland, first settled at Fort Germana and then at Germantown at present-day Fauquier County in Virginia. Names are listed with families and towns of emigration from Seigerland. And I found that little quote about personal evolution not only contributes to, it depends on social evolution. I found it on this website somewhere, but I won't kill time doing that. Just know that that's what I found here. And when we look at the generational planets and we take a minute, take a beat, so much of the energy that is driving large amounts of people like we are right now, the awakened. There is a Neptune to Pluto situation of a sextile that's been going on for several decades now, few decades. And because of this sextile angle, it's like 45 degrees or something in the sky. Because of this angle, no, it's 60 degrees, excuse me, 60 degrees of this angle, and it's been holding and holding and holding. Pluto has been involved, generational planet. Neptune has been involved, generational planet. But through the pressure of this, we have seen psychology go from the 1920s, where it was mythical, into now a fully established situation, I guess you could say. where they have founded certain theories that are operational as the norm. And I'll back that statement up because insurance companies will pay for it. Try me. I got you. I'll be your huckleberry. Try me. If insurance companies are going to back up these doctor appointments with money, how much more validity do you need to know that psychology is a real thing? Because in 1920, they wouldn't have believed that, you know? There was Sigmund Freud. We all know he was the father of psychology, the beginnings of it, right? Well, his protege was Carl Jung. Carl Jung used astrology in his practice to work psychology. We see generations of people, and all I got to say is 1990. I'm just going to say it 1990. In the 80s and the 90s, the 70s and the 60s, if you were seeing a specialist for your mind, people automatically put you in a particular group where you're crazy. So people would go silently and quietly. It began to become a little more of a cultural fad in the 80s, where it was like, oh, I'm going to see my therapist, that sort of thing. But the skillfulness of psychology continued to develop to the point where now they're breaking it apart and forming like the church did. You know, the Protestant church began to fracture into all these denominations, and psychology is doing the same. My only validity for this is the money that backs it. The money that backs it. And now what we find are organizations and companies that require it. One of my close friends and clients, she's been with me for 7 years, okay? She's an industrial psychologist, where these government corporations, these 500 Fortune companies need an industrial psychologist on hand, okay? This Neptune to Pluto 60-degree situation that's been going on, I think, from the 60s, the early 60s to now, has developed over time. And here we sit. It was only a matter of time before people began to put the link together that a lot of the psychology issues are resolved when we deal with our spirituality. Spirituality is more than just a mental, I know that something psychologically has been given to me from my childhood. I know in here in my heart, though, that something's off. How do I get my brain and my heart to speak with one another? And that's where heart work comes into play. These groups that gather together are social. They're peer-led groups. I've been in part of them, where you sit in these groups, right? 12-step program. That one's like 85 years old. And we've been practicing this skill of sitting alone, sitting with a doctor, sitting with peer-led groups, you know? And we've developed the ideas of what really sets us free internally. Because once our hearts and our minds are lined up, now we can treat each other with a little civilization and treat ourselves with a little more love, a little more grace, a little more kindness. So what do we tell each other? Go do your shadow work. Go do your shadow work. However, the social evolution, that's the point I want to get across here. The more of us begin to do this, the larger the effect becomes. The larger the effect becomes. So I say that we go take Mr. Hans, and I'll do it with you. And we'll do it step by step, because no, I don't have his chart plugged in. I'm not that savvy. I'm going to take Hans Jacob Richter. There he is. Hans Jacob Richter. I guess. I know I keep rolling my R. His birthday is the 10th of October, 1674. I do not know the time. For what I need to know about him and his world, I'm going to start with the generational planets. And let me show you what I did. I went to my AI co-pilot, whom I have named Armstrong. I did. I totally named him Armstrong. Let's go to this one. I had him pull up some of the ideas in the time frames that my relatives were alive in. So let me kind of change the view here. Let me just scroll in because it'll scroll in. As we know, he came to America in 1714. So let me see if I can't get there. I'll go back. The 10th of October, 1674. So I'm going to look up 1674. And I said, hey, Armstrong, where was Pluto? Where was Neptune? Where was Uranus during this time? Tell me what was going on culturally in this time period. So what did I say? 1674? 1674. So his parents were dealing with the ideas of early enlightenment. Oh, say it ain't so. Communication surge, duality themes. And we saw that duality part a little bit in that other website that spoke about barbarian tribes that were still just trying to be tribes, right? That rock's my rock, that tree's my tree, you're stepping over my river, right? These are tribes that are still trying to be tribal versus these other folks that want to wear clothes. You know what I mean? They want to build a house, they want to have a safe community where they can gather together and ring the bell and go to church on Sunday. They're not asking for much. And the tribal people are over here on this other side saying, hey, you know, we did our war dance, we got our war paint on, and we try to run around our, you know, maybe it was a ritual. Twice a year, we run around the entire border of our lands. We come out in the woods, and here you are with a church bell. What's going on? Do we fight you? Do you fight us? These other people have all these clothes on, and they're like, I don't want to fight. I want to go to church. And the tribe was like, pick up your sticks and fight. Duality themes, right? Communication surge. And we see that in this era of 1661 to 1665 because there's a lot going on. If I think back to that era, you know, when was the printing press? 1442, is that when the printing press was built? And people have copies? This would be, no, I think King Henry VIII was in the 1500s, which put Queen Elizabeth on the throne, the British Empire. Just roll with me, okay? This is how I think. What do you want? What do you want? Ooh, squirrel. Look at that. 1714 colony of Germana, Virginia. Wow. Them's my folks. Them's my folks. That's what my dad would have said. Them's my folks. All right, all right. Enough squirreling. Enough squirreling. Let's see. Queen Elizabeth the First reign dates from 1558 until March 1603. Okay. Who came after Queen Elizabeth? Is it King Charles the Second of England dates? And I'm putting that in there. Oh, yeah, look, he died February 6th, 1685. He was a king of Scotland, reigned as the king of England and Scotland from the Restoration. And say, okay, so my relative was born right at the tail end of this dude's reign. And one of the reasons I'm putting in England is that they did have this global empire thing going on. And they were close enough to Prussia and Germany and Deutschland that trade would have been a thing between them. So the effect on one end, you could see that people's food is getting messed with. Once there's a turnover of a reign, like Queen Elizabeth I to Charles II, there's going to be a little bit of turbulence, like every time that thing sort of happens. There's that guy. Wow. So that tells me a little bit more about kind of what was going on with this guy. So, where was I? Hans Jacob Richter, 1674, 10th of October. Generational planets, early enlightenment, communication surge, duality themes. Pluto in Libra, that was 1448. Nope, let's go up a little bit. Pluto in Aquarius. Oh my God. I'm so sorry about the pause. That's the guy that I get taken to, right? And Pluto is in Aquarius for us right now. Right now. What are the odds of this? That's just, it's amazing. It's amazing. Collective reform, radical ideas, rich terrain for archetypal revolution and emotional sovereignty. What does that mean? Well, I'll just make it real easy. Before, if you had emotions, they went, we don't care. We're hungry. We don't care. We just got hit with the Black Plague again. Keeps coming back every 10 years, right? Oh, I have emotions. They came in and took my farm, raped my women, took my children. The feudal lord says, I don't care. Where's the tax money? So if Pluto in Aquarius here is this first moment where we get to have a little emotional sovereignty, that's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal. God, that's so weird. It would fit the moment, though. It would fit the moment. Because, okay, let me pause again. Y'all know I get squirrely. It'll all make sense in the end, though. You got to trust me. You got to trust. Found it because I'm awesome. It's okay. You can say I'm awesome too. Okay, where'd I put it? Here it is. Yes, I colored that in myself. No judgment. This is the 11th house on the astrology wheel. Okay. Okay. The 11th house right here. Yes. Okay, great. Here's the 11th, and we know that's Aquarius energy. If we go to its opposition to this other point, we know that side is Leo. True? Of course, true, which means people are going to use Leo energy for their own personal expression. Hide. Okay, now, when we look at the first in conjunct, it takes us to this house over here. And guess which one that is? That's Cancer. This house has our feelings attached to it. And that's the first angle, which is 150 degrees. This is the first one. Aquarius is always going to be looking at their feelings and how they feel internally about something. What's on the other side is Virgo is over here. This is perfectionism. It's also guilt. It can also be like, I mean, not just guilt and perfectionism. It's that, let me jump in there and do it because you're having a hard time with it. Let me get in there and try to help. What you're doing is not healthy. Let me jump in and make that for you. And of course, Virgo also includes our discriminatory processes. And what do I mean by that? The Virgo energy is about filtering the world through what we see, Cancer. And we're going to take what we see in Cancer and we're going to express it, and then we're going to filter it right there in Virgo. From the place of Virgo, for the data set in front of us, we're going to begin to categorize and classify things. We go, okay, that's an animal that goes in the animal category. That's the food thing that goes in the food category. That's the this thing, it goes in that category. And our feelings are absolutely a part of that process. So I wanted to show this to you because just because this is the 11th house, it doesn't mean that it's all that air energy that goes to nothing. No. That air energy begins from this place of, I have a feeling inside of my gut. My instinct is telling me something, and I'm going to express it here. If we skip over the expressing part and we just say, screw it, then we're going to go straight to the discriminatory process, which is Virgo. And this is the place where we are looking for perfection, but definitely getting to work, definitely trying to categorize it. You know, every time we watch the 11th house with the aliens, every time the aliens pop up, the very first thing that people do is like, what the heck is that? You know, their feelings jump up and then their expressions say, what the F is that? You know, and they make this huge movie about it because they can't classify it. It doesn't go, the alien thing does not go into any category that I know. I am not familiar with the alien. I don't know what they eat. Are they going to eat me? I have no clue. So when the other thing cannot serve its capacity here in a Virgoan nature, then yes, we rely solely on our feelings about the matter and our expressions kind of come out. But it's why I needed to show you, absolutely show you, the 11th house picture. Because when we come over here and we look at the generational planets, and we see that collectively there's reform using radical ideas, which is a rich terrain for archetypal revolution and emotional sovereignty, I go, oh my God, we're going to do that. We're going to do it again because we are currently in that time period. So you and I are at the very beginning of feeling this thing that happened way back when my relative was like, sure, oh yeah, I'll leave the great long line of Richters here in Prussia, Germany, Deutschland. Yeah, I'll pull up stakes. I'll throw everything away because the only thing we need is us. So get your little knapsack full of bread and apples, cheese, and we're going to go into the wilderness over there. We don't know what's over there. We're just going to pack up and go. It's quite revolutionary, don't you think? Now, there are some other, because there were other things I made my AI do that can contribute to what we're looking at. This is just me doing what I do, because once I start taking off, it's really hard to slow me down. It's like really hard to slow me down. Okay, so Neptune and the eras of Neptune, I want to feel what it was like for them again, generationally. Come on, man. All right, so what was it? 16, 74 is when he was born. So he's coming into an era here. There's 1680, 1695, 1680s, an illusion collapse for Neptune. Neptune was fixing to have an illusion collapse. We have Sir Isaac Newton, oopsie, Baruch Spinoza, I'm pretty sure I said that right, and I'm not going to try the De La Cruz guy. Enlightenment, there it is again, rationalism, mystical resistance, but we're going to have emotional sovereignty. Can you imagine how clearly they were speaking to one another if there's an illusion collapse with Neptune? They probably spoke to one another hardcore, like hardcore. Like, pick up your knapsack. And there's emotional sovereignty, right? So my great-great-great-grandmother was probably like, don't talk to me like that. Just straight off the cuff. Straight off the cuff. Enlightenment, rationalism, mystical resistance. They wanted the truth. So this illusion collapse tells me very quickly that Pisces energy was being challenged very greatly by the other signs, the mutable signs. Challenged by Virgo, oy vey, black and white, right? Challenged by Gemini, look at the details, look at the facts. You don't have all the details, then get back to work. By Sagittarius, right? What can this thing teach us so that we can get bigger? Notice my relatives had to get on a boat. They've probably never even been on a ship like that. Go 3 months across the Atlantic, get off the boat, and be like, okay, what's next? Nobody's here to tell you, brah. There is no Richter. You Richter yourself. Well, okay, where's our first step? Well, you might want to go find some people that speak German, because that's probably not me. I'm going to go to Pluto now. I know that sounds terrible, like it's so rude, but guess what? They were having an illusion crash. Here we go. Uranus by sign. 1696. Emotional catalyst. Belief rupture. Somebody come and save me right now. Belief rupture. Rise of Enlightenment philosophy, early scientific academies. Cultural and spiritual shift was mythic storytelling begins to fracture under rational inquiry. So Uranus was also helping. Man, this is kind of cold, right? Is it just me? Between all of these, is it just me? It seems like that time period was probably like, I don't think they were concerned with anybody. I don't care if they were having emotional sovereignty. I don't think they were paying attention to each other, if I'm honest. They were probably like, Uranus weather. I wanted major weather disruptions that happened during that time. The Great Storm of 1703 in England. Again, with that emotional catalyst was belief rupture, because you got to shake a jar several times. Mythic echo, pilgrim, prophet, cosmic firestorm. Ritual cue, burn the false doctrine, ignite sacred truth. What is up with the fire? Okay, enough of that. Enough of that. Man, that does not make me a happy person. That definitely does not. I don't even know if I would like these people, if I'm honest with you at this point. I'm going to go to Astrology. You guys are familiar by this point with astro.com right up here. It's more than just horoscopes, okay? What I want is the map. And this is me seeking the truth, right? Up here in the upper left-hand corner, if you click horoscopes, I don't know why they did it like this. Go down here to horoscopes, drawings, horoscope drawings and data, and you'll see the extended chart selection right there. I'm going to click that, and I'm going to open it up. There's me. I'm going to add, get my face out of here. I'm going to add, if you don't have an account with astro.com and you want to look at charts, you might wanna. I'm going to put in here Hans Jacob. Sorry. Male. I'm going to put in the 10th of October. What did I say? 1674. And because we don't know his time, because we really don't know his time, I'm going to put in noon o'clock because it really, we'll just take a look-see. We'll just take a look-see. I'm not kidding. The only thing that I'm missing here is Troop Bach, Nassau, Siegen, Germany, which very well could have changed. So let me look at that real quick. I'm going to grab Troop Bach, Nassau, Siegen, Germany, and I'm going to copy it. I'm going to jump down here, create a new tab, and be like, where is this now? Question mark. Make my AI go get it. Be like, AI, get to work. Trupak today is a district of the city of Siegen in the Wittgenstein County of North Rhine-Westphalia, Germany. It is no longer part of a principality, but instead a modern neighborhood within Siegen with about 1,800 residents. There it is, the Nassau Siegen, which is historical. Oh, look, a principality within the Holy Roman Empire that existed in two periods, 1303 to 1328 and 1606 to 1743. That's where our guy is from. Its capital was Siegen, and it was divided at times into Catholic and Protestant lines. Okay. Yeah, let's get back to the chart. So we know that Nassau Siegen is a thing. So I'm going to scroll on down till we hit Germany. Boop. And I'm going to put is it Siegen? There's Siegberg. There's Siegen. That'll do, pig. That'll do. You guys remember that movie? Where the farmer doesn't talk at all, but the pig does? So cute. That'll do, pig. That'll do. Let me go ahead and take out my asteroids for the moment because I want to see where the movements were for Hans Jacob in 1674. Yes, you can. You put in any date, and the charts will give it to you. Well, Mr. Hans Jacob. So, generational influences. True? Of course, true. Over here on the right, Pluto in Cancer. Oh, wow. And it was retrograde on that day. That's incredible. I'd have to double check to see if it went retrograde sooner, later, in the day. Probably not. We don't know. I'd have to do the research. Touching Neptune, which is also retrograde. Pluto opposite Pallas, Athena, and she is the female warrior that was not born from a woman. She was birthed from the head, the brain of Jupiter. But she could sit with both men and women. Her logic was out of this world, okay? And she's standing in Capricorn, not quite at a special degree like 13 degrees, but close enough to know that Capricorn over the second house, the North Node in Capricorn in the first. And right there, we see part of his storyline, don't we? His North Node in Capricorn pulling him away from Pluto, transformational, Cancer, original nation. You must leave your South Node from that nation, come forward with your own identity, and use your identity to create a value system here, which will include building a house and a home. Notice also he's given Neptune in Aquarius in the second house. How many friends and strangers did he open his door to and welcome into his home? Why? Because he was a pilgrim, first house. He was a pioneer, first house, North Node. Interesting, isn't it? Notice also how the sun is in Libra. Yes, but it is butting up against that midheaven line right there. So he was seen in the community. And notice his name, Richter. Remember what, and his whole society would have known. They were German settlers. They were all German settlers living in that little, not an octagon, it was a hexagon. Yeah. His name was known. His neighbors knew his name, but they knew him by his philosophy, right? Because his last name, Virgo over the ninth, said that he was a representative of the law. He knew the legal states. He was a judge. His neighbors, just from his last name. So he was known for this. True? Of course, true. Notice the opposition point. Here we go with the story. And my, look how excited I'm getting. I'm like, my heart is like, because I have Sagittarius over the third. His son, his relationships, his connections to the people in his community, his voice in the community, that, his trine in the air sign, barely, Mars at the 29th degree of Gemini. Notice where his sun is in opposition to Saturn and Vesta. The Vesta quality, she is the Puritan, the virgin. She would be like Mother Mary or a nun. Her requirements for God, the Puritan sort of way. Aries energy, Saturn in Aries. Look, I'm just going to tell you as a friend, it's really hard to be a pioneer without having a machete. Okay? It's really hard to be a pioneer without accidentally stepping on someone's foot. It's very hard to be a pioneer if you've been raised and your father and your father's father and your father's father were all judges, legal, representing the people to the higher royalty people, okay? Because Saturn and Aries literally tells me in the fourth house, this dude thought it was a good idea, but he'd probably never slept in the cold winter rain with his wife underneath a lean-to for the first season because he wasn't a builder. He was a judge. Who's going to build my house? And his community was like, Saturn and Aries, you, bro, get to work. Get to work. How many people in his community, Neptune in Aquarius, did he look at his community and look at this connection between Neptune and Pluto in Cancer, where he was like, I'm a little confused here. I thought my friends were gonna build my house. And his friends are like squaring the sun. Get to work, peasant. Get to work, pioneer. You must be transformed in what you do with your neighbors. Notice also, I'm just going to zoom in because that's scary. The sun is at the 17th degree. When we round that up, it's 18. That's a karmic degree. What he did with his neighbors was in opposition to his Saturn in Aries. You don't get to bark around at people and tell them what to do. We're all pioneers here. You're going to have to karmically learn with the square to Pluto. You're going to have to karmically understand you're not in charge here. That was probably a gut punch to the Virgo over the ninth, right? His, Libra in the seventh here. Here, let me help you out with my air energy trine. They're probably looking at this Hans Jacob guy saying, you talk too much, get to work. Yeah, but if I talk with the Mars and Gemini, that's what I do. That's my job. And his neighbors would have been like, get to work. Look at that, Mars at 29 degrees. And then the moon at 29 degrees, squaring Venus, the moon squaring Venus. Notice the Scorpio ruling the 11th house. He wanted to control the group. He wanted to lead the group. Right? The moon in Aquarius, man, at the 29th degree, also squaring. Ay, Dios mijo. Look at this guy, was a hot mess. The moon squaring Mars, if the birth time is correct. If the birth time is correct. It wouldn't have mattered though what house and stuff it was in. The moon was still squaring Mars on that day. I will say that. When the Mars and moon touch like this, especially at the 29th degree, it tells me a lot of things. Look, Venus at the 29th degree. It tells me a lot of things. Number one, he was angry at both his mother and his father. Okay. He had anger issues. He also had, look, the sun is in opposition to Saturn. He had authority issues. It doesn't matter what house it's in. No. On that day, the moon is opposing Saturn. So he was angry at his dad. He was angry at his mom. I look at the family tree. Let's go back. Where'd it go? We're getting there. There he is. Hans Richter. This dude was angry at his parents, Christoffel Richter and Anna Katharin Becker, just by looking at the day he was born. These two people. Wow. Siegen, Westphalia, Prussia. Let me open up his dad. Let me open up good old Pops and let's take a look-see. All right, so he was born the 29th of June, 1638. We have a birthday there. And we could pull up dad's birthday and try to sync up the charts. But look, possible missing child? What? It says the last child was born 3 or more years before the mother turned 40. Show all. What's going on with Christoffel? Possible missing child. There is a gap of 3 or more years between the birth of one child and the next siblings. Possible missing child. I'm still using possible, right? Because there's possibility. No kidding. All right, here's the family. Let me go here. German naming traditions. It was common for German children to be given at least 2 names. Boys were commonly baptized with the first name Johann, and girls were baptized Maria, Anna, or Anna Marie. So a family could have 5 boys with the first name Johann. The second name, known as Rufname, along with the surname, is what would be used in marriage, tax, land, and death records. Wow. All right, I'm not going to read all that stuff. It's interesting, though. Okay. AKA Christopher Stoffel and Christoffel, almost certain to be the son of Johannes, was a clockmaker. Information from ancestry and descendants of the Nassau-Siegen immigrants to Virginia. His father was a clockmaker. Wow. clockmaker, member of the Guild of Steelsmiths and Tool Makers. From Holskla, he was a clockmaker. It says it over and over again. Member of Guild of Steelsmiths and Tool Makers. A clockmaker, a clockmaker. What? And down here, somebody needs to get this straightened up. Who knows more about the family? Yeah, that's really funny. So his dad was a clockmaker. What kind of signatures would that give us in a chart, right? So let me go back to the chart. The sun opposing Saturn in Aries. He didn't want to be a clockmaker. He didn't want to be a clockmaker. His dad would probably try to get him to sit down and beef up his skills, but maybe he wanted to hang out with his friends too much. The moon in Aquarius, you know, when it gets that far down the line in the very last degree there in the last decan, your ideals get very large to where you realize that humans and humanity at large, we all equally need something. Whether it's, if you're going to feed one, you feed all for one and one for all. Ay, Dios mijo. Did I just find a reference? When, this is going to be terrible. Three Musketeers alive, question mark. I just want to see if this influenced the time period. Look at that, 1625 to 1628. Great. And what are the odds, and I'm just saying it, what are the odds that a clockmaker would give his son stories or books? Because books back then, they were taken, you know, like one person would carry a book and they'd travel in a wagon and they'd go from here to there. And when they were done, they'd like give it to somebody just randomly, you know. It's, if they had bookstores, it was probably rare. But Saigon seems to sound like a town. Am I not wrong? Am I not wrong? Notice also the Juno placement in Leo. That's kind of interesting because it gives him a certain ability, a certain power, and a certain ability. I don't think he and his original family got along very well. I do think he wanted a bunch of friends. Gemini, Aquarius. I do. Notice that Gemini, Aries, what am I doing? Mars retrograde, 29th degree of Gemini, sitting over the 6th house, but the Mars being in the 5th house. The guy probably had a tremendous sex drive. He probably had a hunger to work the land as well. Ownership, Taurus over the 5th. Taurus over the 5th people, whatever they own, like they really own. They want to grip onto it. And if this was the idea of land, I bet you $1 million I could find some screw up that was going on in Saigon that was prohibiting folks from going out and farming. It could have been feudal issues, you know, feudal issues. His lineage there, where's Capricorn? Ah, see the series right here in the 1st house in Capricorn? Saturn in the 4th, definitely. Saturn in the 4th. When you have Capricorn signatures like this, what you're going to find is a grandparent being very involved in the raising of the child. And so with a grandparent who had gone before, when you think about those time frame periods of 1625, the grandparent would have lived during those times and quite possibly had their land taken away. It would have influenced Mr. Jacob Hans. It's very, very interesting. But he wants to lead people. He probably didn't have a chance to do that until his older years. Just because what I see from the chart from him, he's got a lot of authoritarian issues. It's almost as if, if you're going to break ground and you're going to do something so revolutionary as walk away from your entire nation and your entire culture, you're going to hit some snags before you get your stride. There's a lot to learn, especially if your dad was a clockmaker. Your dad's a clockmaker, and now you're going to go out into the wilds of Virginia with a machete, Indians, and all sorts of things. The Scorpio over the 11th house does also talk to me about when the dismantling here of the settlement. Scorpio over the 11th, they build a community like this, and it did say that this community failed. The 1714 colony from Seigerland settled first at Fort Germanna and then at Germantown and then which means it had to move. And right then and there, you see it in the chart, Scorpio, right? Jupiter in Scorpio. Some long trek that we have to take and dismantle our community. Wherever Scorpio is, it's never fair. Either you have control, the other person has control. The 29th degree of Scorpio, Venus here. Notice also the land signature, Taurus. The one desire factor for him and his friends to all get together, and we're going to own land. And then once we get there, the government's going to come in. There's that Saturn quincunx right there. Look at that. That first inconjunct. Jupiter to Saturn. Venus over here to Saturn. The government's going to come in, local government, and say, hey, you got to move your stuff from Fort Germanna. We're not going to protect you. The fort's going away. You can't be out here by yourself without protection. So you and yours then at Germantown. And they had to pick up stakes and go move in Germantown, where in 1717, which is 3 years. So 3 years they build their stuff. 3 years, that's like the hardest part. You got to cut the timber. You got to saw it down. You got to drag it over here. You got to set your foundations, which means the whole time you're exposed, this 3-year gap from 1714 to 1717, this 3-year gap right there where you're exposed to all the weather. It rains in Virginia. It snows in Virginia. I've been there. Now we're at 1717 colony. Settled first across from the Rapidan River from Fort Germanna. See how they moved from fort to fort? And then from 1725 to 1727 began to move to the Robertson River Valley in present-day Madison County and patent land in their own names. Finally. So you mean to tell me these guys leave Germany? They start building at 1714. And not only do they move once, they move 2 different times before they can patent the land in their own names. And we look at the chart of this guy and we see how Jupiter is inconjunct to Saturn. Yeah. Saturn in Aries of all things. There's a fort. There's army guys. You can't just be out here in the wilderness willy-nilly on your own. Don't you know? It's 1714. These Indians will come in here and just scalp you. You need protection. You want to build near a fort. This fort's getting taken down. You got to go to that one. No, that one's moving and getting merged. No, let's go over to that one. Finally. So after maybe many, many long years, this relative of mine had their name patented in Virginia. Yeah, he wasn't the only one either. I've been up and down my line. There were others. Very interesting. It'd be interesting to sit with his chart. Look at Lilith at 15 degree. in the second house right there. His imagination and him focusing on what he saw, the determination for what he saw for his world. I don't think he was going to let that 15 degrees go because it was sextile to Pallas. You cannot tell me that I cannot build and have a different life in a different place because I'm going to do what I want. Uranus and Chiron in Pisces. And notice look at this, it's so silly. Chiron next to Uranus, sure. But Chiron in Pisces in the third. Chiron in Pisces, it tells me that the nurturance that he needed as a child, and it's in the third. I mean, we don't know the time, but it definitely was conjunct Uranus. He had big thoughts. He had big dreams. And the Chiron in Pisces tells me that nobody wanted to hear him talk. Nobody wanted, no, we don't want to hear all that stuff. Just get to work. Well, yes, yes, yes. You and your pipe dreams, Hans. You and your pipe dreams. Come over here and learn how to build a clock. And Hans said, no, I don't want to learn how to build a clock. No, I want to go after my dream. I want to go after my dream. And there he is dragging Anna with him. Man, I hope she beat him with a whooping stick. Yeah. Big dreamer, big thinker, probably a big reader, a big talker. But he was determined. Very determined. Yeah. All right. This was really cool to do with you. I don't know how you feel about it. I hope that you give it a shot. I hope that you do your own. Let me know in the comments and what it is that you find as you dig into your family tree. Now I'm going to be thinking about Hans Jacob for I don't know how long. But when we process the family karma stuff, having a tool like this, it matters. It helps. It brings the story even more into your embrace so that you can process, because now I'm going to be thinking about a guy who just wanted to share. He just wanted to share and nobody wanted to partake. And it's not that it was wrong. It's that evolution must happen. Spiritual evolution must happen. We are born and raised in one state of being. And through life's experiences, we get filtered into another state of being. And that's what Pluto's job is. And so, when we do these family karmic, lives that we process, don't forget that part. He was a different person at 60 than he was at 14. We're not static. We don't stay still. We're constantly moving. Why? Because we keep getting up in the morning. Whether Hans liked it or not, he was plopped right down into Virginia. 3 years. Go cut timber. No, but I want to talk to you about the dreams. No, we must anchor the dream. Go cut some timber, Hans. We'll talk later at supper. Yeah? Okay. That was fun. I love you guys. I'll see y'all later. Bye.